All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State, powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We're in Bedminster today at Burnt Mills Cider with John and Miranda. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. So this is going to be, I think I told you off mic. I know I told you off mic. Episode like 161, 162. So 3+ years, 160-something episodes, and our first cidery, which we just confirmed is I just confirmed is a real word. So I'm excited. So this is a big moment in the show.
Well, we're happy to be part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, okay, Burnt Mills Cider. We just said it's a cidery, but kind of like, let's do 30,000-foot view. Maybe, John, you want to take this one of what Burnt Mills is and what it does and what it makes, so people kind of know what it is right out of the gate.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Burnt Mills Cider makes hard cider. Hard cider is a fruit wine where we're taking apple juice, fresh apple juice, fermenting it into an alcoholic product where the natural sugars in the apple juice get converted into alcohol, and then we generally finish it off with either carbonation or actually other flavors that we add to it.
Yeah, and so like because we've done a lot of breweries, we've done wineries, we've done distilleries. Like, where does a cidery fall kind of in, like, just from my own curiosity, like in the not pecking order, the regulations or different things? Does it kind of fall under the winery type thing?
Yeah, historically, so the state considers me a winemaker. I have a winemaker's license.
Okay.
But it's one of these products that fall, into different classes. It can be viewed as a substitute for beer in that it has a similar amount of alcohol. Our products are generally between 5 and 6% ABV, so not too dissimilar to that of a beer. Certainly a lot less than the typical wine's ABV. But the flavors, again, it's very analogous to a wine in the sense that we're taking a fruit juice and fermenting it, and the process is almost identical to that of winemaking. There's no brewing involved whatsoever. There's no distillation involved whatsoever. It's just fermentation of a fruit juice to something that's been done for 8,000 years.
Yeah.
To get a very different product.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think what's interesting. So, how long has Burnt Mills been here?
We opened our doors 4.5 years ago, right in June of 2020. Right in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So when we started, and Miranda can attest to this, we were wearing the mask. You can still see the social distancing patches on the wall and on the floor. It's funny, at the time, we didn't know whether or not people were going to even show up because all the bars and restaurants were closed. But we had the opposite problem. A lot of people came because you could be socially distant. In addition, since we're very outdoor oriented, you could also be
great out there.
Outside. You could bring your family, your friends, your pet. Feel comfortable in that there was plenty of space, so you could be socially distant and could have a nice, tasty product as well.
Yeah. So, all right. I think it's interesting because, like you said, 8,000 years, and like New Jersey has a very long history of growing apples and all that, like especially up this way, Sussex County, like that whole area up there as well. So are there a lot of cideries in Jersey? Because honestly, I don't even, I know this one and I've heard of this one before, but I don't know if I've heard of many others.
Yeah, there are a handful of others. I believe there are 5 cideries in total in New Jersey. They're all very high quality producers. But going back to your original comment, this is a state that has a very long history with apple growing, with cider making, also with cider distillation.
Right.
Going back to colonial days, New Jersey was the state for production of applejack.
Yep.
And that tradition certainly took a pause, as it did with everywhere else during the Prohibition era, and that put a semi-permanent disruption. It was probably the central event in the history of New Jersey cider making, because the apple orchards that were left over were essentially converted to varieties of apples that were better off at supermarkets.
Yeah.
Not necessarily good for cider making. and that legacy remains true to this day. So we still see the effects of prohibition in the offering of varieties of apples that are available. But I suspect the people at these other ciders in New Jersey and elsewhere would say that part of their role is to introduce to the public a much higher quality cider that would be more akin to what was available in years past.
Sure. And I promise we're going to get you in here at any minute. But now, like, I'm just down this rabbit hole, and this is kind of what happens. This is what happens with some of these episodes. So you mentioned apples that are good for the supermarket, but maybe not good for making cider. So what makes a good apple for a hard cider? And then where is Burnt Mills getting their apples to produce the cider that you sell here?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Generally speaking, an apple that has essentially higher acidity levels, higher sugar levels, bitter sweets, bitter sharps, not necessarily good for tasting, ripe off the tree. They are often, able to produce an excellent cider. And generally speaking, this is not true across the board, but generally speaking, the apples that you find at a supermarket taste good, but they don't make a very good cider. And by the way, the same thing holds for grapes. If you were to set out to make, let's say, a red wine, and I love using this analogy, you wouldn't buy red grapes from the supermarket. You'd take Cabernet Sauvignon varieties or something else, something that's better suited for the application at hand.
Right.
So and it's the same thing for apple cider making. Some of these varieties are not necessarily ancient, but they're heirloom varieties, and they're a little bit harder to find. We have taken apples. Now we have some of these heirloom varieties planted out front, but they haven't yet started producing fruit. And so until that point, we've generally been taking most of our juice from upstate New York. We've gotten some from Pennsylvania, and as close by as next door in Chester, New Jersey.
Yeah, which is cool. And I think, the farming aspect of, we did stuff with some of the wineries that we've done stuff with, and obviously something like this, like the Garden State, like we're growing stuff, we're producing things, apples, grapes, like all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a cool thing that people forget about, sort of, and then a lot of what you're making here sometimes is contingent on what the growing season's like, and how that happens and whatever. So to me, it's just like an interesting kind of the ebbs and flows of, like, you have some control, but you also don't have a ton of control. You're kind of just like, it's up to Mother Nature at a certain point, of the process.
Yeah, no, you're hitting the nail on the head. And the other thing I thought that you said that's interesting is specific to New Jersey is that the state has such a long history and produces just some awesome produce.
Yeah.
And we try to incorporate a lot of that into, our products. We were talking about Jersey Blue, which is, a cider that is blended with fresh New Jersey blueberries that we get from one farm down in Hamilton. Then we have Jersey Peach, and you can imagine what that's made with. And then we have you're going to try a little bit later a product that's made with fresh New Jersey cranberries. People in New Jersey know how good these foods are, but I'm not sure how well known it is outside of New Jersey.
Yeah,
and we do that with a lot of our products. We've had products that have contained cucumbers, basil, all grown locally, beets, carrots. They're absolutely delicious.
That's really cool.
And they're micro, it's kind of micro local. They've been grown at farms close by. In town.
Yeah. So here you go. How long have you been here with Burnt Mills Cider? And then I have a follow-up question for that.
I've been here about 4 years.
Okay, so almost pretty much the entire time.
So she was one of the first
I
employees.
think I was the third employee.
Okay. And I think it might have been LinkedIn because I was trying to do some research before this, that you like the tasting room manager first.
Yes.
And then now doing like the marketing and social media stuff. And I'm sure still
Yep.
doing a little bit of everything. for
Yeah,
sure.
some sales. Sometimes I help with production, mainly canning.
Yeah.
As needed, and just events once in a while. Like we do tastings in local liquor stores.
Sure.
So I'll go do those. We do the farmers market, the Bedminster farmers market, which starts in May and goes through early December. So we take turns
Yeah.
doing that Saturday morning.
Okay. So you, of all people, and I'm sure obviously John knows too, but when you're in here and people are buying stuff, like you obviously have, like you mentioned, some of those varietal type things, like, specialty fermented, ciders. There we go. Got there. But what are like the main players here? Like with people are coming, like are they ordering? Yeah, are there like flagship ciders that Burnt Mills has? And if so, what are they? And can we try some?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Our main flagship is our semi-dry. It's like our classic hard cider. Dry sparkling we usually have as well. It's going to be a lot drier than that, more like an apple champagne or a prosecco. Then we usually have the sour cherry all year, the pear we have all year, and then the General George, which is a cherry vanilla. And then we rotate seasonally. Some fall seasonals now are the Hunt, which is a cranberry chai, the cider donut, which tastes like drinking a donut.
Sure.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Fall spice, which is like apple pie. And then we'll start getting into our spring and summer flavors very soon. We'll have our mango berry coming back soon. It's a mango strawberry. Hopefully Scarlet Nights, which is a new one, if we can work that out with Rutgers, which would be fresh New Jersey cranberries and ginger.
Okay.
A little bit of a kick to it.
Sure.
And then we do a strawberry lemonade, the peach, the Jersey blue, all of those summer flavors that we get
Yeah.
local produce for.
Awesome. So what do we have? We have a little flight back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we start with the driest, which is the dry sparkling.
Okay. And this, go ahead. Sorry.
Miranda pointed out it's kind of like an apple champagne. It's very dry. There's no sugar added.
I like this.
And our products, generally speaking, are very dry. Even the sweetest ones we do are probably 30% drier than, let's say, anything from Angry Orchard.
Yeah.
But this is one of the few ciders that we do that are unflavored, and to get this way
Yeah.
is very difficult. This is to me, it's delicious. This is really one of my
phenomenal.
one of my favorites,
It's like you're biting into an apple that just kind of like bursts with appley flavor in your mouth, kind of thing.
Yes.
I just didn't even talk it to the mic there, but bursts with appley flavor in your mouth.
So, and it's hard to get this to this point. To the extent that there are imperfections or impurities, you can't hide it with other flavors. There's no sweetness that we're adding in. This is just out there in the open, and it is what it is. So
Yeah.
If it were, I'm sure that to some extent it does have impurities, but to me they all kind of combine together for complexity. But this is just a delicious, very
Yeah.
simple
This is phenomenal.
cider,
Yeah.
very traditionally done. And this has also shaped the way that we've approached cider. So this was one of the first flavors that we had in our lineup of 4 flavors when we opened 4.5 years ago. We've had well over 20 flavors. Right now we have 11 on tap, but this was one of the front 4,
Yeah.
if you will. And the philosophy we've taken is that cider is kind of like wine's relaxed younger cousin. It'll never be
Such a great analogy. I love that.
it'll never be as complex as wine can be. So there's no need to be a snob about it.
Sure.
Wine snobbery, I think, that exists, and I can understand it because you can get
I get so intimidated by people that know a lot about wine.
Yeah.
Like when we did like the wine expo and all this stuff, I'm just like, they're like, oh, what notes are you getting? And I'm like, what the hell's a note? I don't know. Like, what are we talking about?
Exactly. With
Yeah.
cider, it's just, do you like it? Do you want to drink more?
Yeah.
And so this type of drink is a very tasty alternative to beer. It's a lower alcohol alternative to wine, and because it's let's say on the simple side, it lends itself to being dressed up with other flavors.
Yeah.
So that's why what you'll see in our lineup most of the time, we're adding some sort of flavoring to the cider. And in a lot of cases, as we pointed out, we're trying to showcase what's great about New Jersey in that we're adding in blueberries, or we're adding in fresh peaches, or cranberries, or some of these other items that are grown here in
Yeah.
Garden State.
So you mentioned something like this being like a hard one to like master, I guess, or at least like to get it to this point, and like this flavor profile, or like I guess lack of a flavor profile, if that makes sense. So just out of curiosity, how long have you been making cider?
Oh yeah, good question. So, in fact, I started growing cider-specific apple trees about 12 years ago, and with the intent of making cider as a hobby. So, and that started about 10 years ago. It wasn't until, let's say, 7 years ago that, I had the intention of going commercial with this.
Yeah.
And then even once we started, went commercial, by getting some help from some people I trust, I discovered how little I actually knew about it, and how much I had to learn.
Right.
And that maintains, that holds true to this day. I'm a student of the product, and I'm learning something every day, and just trying to minimize the mistakes that we make. But it started as a hobby, and it just became an expensive endeavor from there.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's the same kind of thing. So, a hobbyist, really, and then like, was there a? It's like some of the breweries that we've had on. It was like they made this one beer and they brought it to their friends, or they submitted it to some like contest or whatever, and they're like, you should open up a brewery, kind of thing. Was it a similar experience for you? Or?
No, in fact, it was probably the opposite.
Don't do this, dude.
I did have somebody say you shouldn't start a business, but it was really my wife that gave the push out of the nest, I suppose. She saw that I had some passion for pursuing the hobby, and I wasn't there with the product yet, but I think she had the faith that would that stuff would follow with the experience, and she was right. She was right.
That's right.
Yeah, she's always right. That's exactly right, Miranda.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
If they take away from this episode, it's that.
Val, we can end at this point.
Yeah, this has been. Yeah.
The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes.
Looking to buy, sell, or rent in Monmouth or Ocean counties? Megan Carroll of RE/MAX Elite brings local expertise and personalized service. Megan will make your real estate process smooth and stress-free. Bringing Southern hospitality to the Jersey Shore, call Megan today at 732-508-7402 or visit her website at mcsellsbythesea.com.
No, we have to try more. So what do we got?
Yeah.
What do we have next?
The next one up is kind of one of the newer flavors. It's just simply called pear, which is kind of descriptive because it is a Bartlett pear apple cider-based product.
Yeah.
So this is just called pear. It's nice and
these are
crisp.
great.
And yeah, come on in.
You can come in,
Megan. But you'll get the pear on the nose, and then when you take a sip, you definitely get a burst of flavor.
Yeah, totally.
Pear flavor. Again, this is one of the newer ones. We introduced this almost a year ago, and we had tried a couple years ago. A pear. We'd taken some Japanese pears grown in Pennsylvania, by the way.
Okay.
And we really didn't get the pear flavor that we were looking for. So we found it more in this Bartlett this Bartlett pear, but it, when we got a lot, and that's how these products come together. It's, a lot of times we get, our products due to failure, and we'll trial something, and it won't work out, and after a little bit of time we zero in on by narrowing the goalposts and get to where we want to be. St. Hops is another example. We failed with that one 35 times before we got to the right flavor profile, and when you get there, we had to change the technique for the way that we, actually make the product.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that there aren't other people in the industry most of the people are not doing it the same way that we're doing it. And it's very difficult to get the flavor, less so the nose, with products like that. But when you get it right, you have a sense of pride of something that is a higher quality product than what else is out there.
Yeah.
And at least in my opinion, and you just run with it. So pear is one of those things.
I like the pear a lot.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah,
Really
good.
simple, but it has good flavor, and that's been pouring well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to those two ladies that came in too. I was gonna stop and so that you guys could talk to them, but they're gone. All right. So
They'll come back.
yeah, they'll be fine. So I guess my next question is we mentioned at the beginning, hobby to now an expensive business endeavor. When you're creating, these new flavors or these, trying different things, obviously you can't put a whole batch in a tank and ferment it and just hope it's good and however long that process takes, or you trying stuff on a smaller scale and then trying to scale it up production wise. How does that work?
That's such a good question.
I don't want to give away the secret, but I think that's curious.
Oh well, you're onto something there. It'd be foolish to, try to make a completely new product with a 3,000-gallon tank.
Yeah, it's a lot of cider. Yeah,
you'd have to be pretty confident you knew what you were doing, or you knew where you wanted to get to. We will start. The simplest thing is to start at a small scale, and then zero in on the product. And you should come to one of our Monday morning meetings, because a lot of times we, our group meeting will be, sampling, some of the trials that.
I'm in. It sounds great.
And
on a Monday morning.
You can, you'll get instant feedback, and you kind of, that's how we go about moving the goalposts, and that's an iterative process. So you keep going back at it till you get something. Now, maybe you're wasting a few liters, per sample.
Yeah.
But that's not really, that's just the cost of doing business.
Sure.
And I'm willing to forego that. But there's some times where we don't have the luxury of being able to do that. We have to commit to larger amounts. Like, for example, when we age something in a barrel, you have one barrel, and that's, a larger 50-gallon type of commitment. And that's fine too. Sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. We don't put it on tap unless we have something that we think is tasty.
Yeah.
It's good.
And I was also reading online, I think on the website, that there's some that you can get in stores, in a liquor store someplace. There's other ones that are only poured here, so you actually have to come out to Bedminster to actually try them. So what are ones that make it out of the space, but what are some of the ones that are for the diehard Burnt Mills fans?
Well, so Miranda, why don't you take that? But we have a split. She said that we have the split of year-round flavors, and most of which get put into cans.
Yep.
And then we also have a rotational seasonals.
Yeah, so we don't can all of our seasonals. If it's really popular, we'll consider it for the next year.
Yeah.
But if we had something on tap, people can come and get it in a growler. Sometimes we'll sell kegs to restaurants and bars. And then our flagships, we do cans to stores, as well as restaurants and bars, and they can do cans or kegs.
Got it.
We're in a little over 200 stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Jersey, across the country, how does that?
New Jersey
tri-state
and
area?
some in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, but you're right. There a lot of times there will be, for example, right now we have, 6 flavors in cans, but 11 things on tap.
Yeah.
And so it's a good segue into the next flavor that we're going to try.
This is we're all old pros here.
Yeah. This one's called Friendsgiving, and it's made with New Jersey-based grown cranberries.
It smells like
And then-
Thanksgiving.
And this is, and you'll get some rosemary as well on there. So it's a blend of spice and tartness.
That's really cool.
From the herbal spice with the from the rosemary, and then the tartness from the cranberry.
Yeah.
This is a flavor that we've had every year, but the recipe changes every year based on what we have available.
Yeah.
The year before we put juniper instead of the rosemary, but it is a local fan favorite, and it's something that you can only get at the cider. So there's always a reason to come here for something, because this will be the only place where you can find 1 or 2 particular drinks. The Jersey maple bourbon is another one where we've taken bourbon barrels, aged the cider for a while, and then blended that aged higher ABV cider with locally made maple syrup.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's not we can only do that in small batches.
Sure.
That's never going to go into cans and go out to the stores.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I was going to ask at the beginning when we started on the first one about and you beat me to it, because I was going to ask, is there a way to taste wine? Here we go. Way to taste cider, because when you do the wine, there's so many levels. People are spitting it out, doing all sorts of crazy things. But there's obviously an aroma to it, but I've noticed that all of these, it's just even now, my mouth is watering for more. It's a crazy kind of
Thank you.
crazy kind of thing. It's I told you off mic, I drink whiskey and beer, and that doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't even remember the last time I even had a cider before today. So this may change my whole thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's actually, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That is again, I do think that the role of the craft producer, now this is not just for the cider makers, this applies to beers and the breweries and the distilleries, the wineries. The role of a craft producer is to create a higher quality product for the consumer, and introduce the consumer to what the product could actually be.
Yeah.
These products have a lot of potential, and it's not just in the unflavored, traditional ciders that we have. It's in the flavored ones. We try to do something that nobody else has done, and to offer combinations of flavors that are unique and together, make people say, "Wow, that's good," or "I want more." Or, "How did they do that?"
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at any of the craft producers, we're not going to be able to compete against the large producers on price,
Right.
right? So, but where you can outperform is in the quality of the product itself.
Yeah.
So, and at Burnt Mills Cider, we're no different from any other craft producer. We're trying to come out with a high quality product that is differentiated through our processes, through our inputs, through our overall creative input as well. And what you see is just a reflection of the efforts that we put into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so far I'm blown away. I honestly do think the first one, the unflavored one, is my favorite so far because it's just like so simple and so good. But all three have been like I loved all three so far. So
Thank you.
You're hitting on exactly what you're trying to do. So mission accomplished, I would say. But that's just me, you know. So what's the last one we got?
So the last one is more letting you know what the kids are drinking. This is the sweetest one. So, it's also, I don't mean to be tongue-in-cheek here, but I learned early on that if I made ciders that appealed to my palate, which, tends towards the drier side,
Yeah.
then we would have been out of business. Within a couple weeks, nobody would have bought our product.
Yep.
Generally speaking, even though we do have, we skew on the drier side, our better selling ciders tend to be the sweeter ones. And so what you have here is called Cider Donut. This is a fairly new product for us. It was new in cans for the first time last year. It was new on tap 2 years ago.
Okay.
But it's just a sweeter cider with cinnamon and vanilla. And in terms of our seasonal offering, you're blown away with
that's
sweetness, right?
Yeah.
In terms of our seasonal offerings, this would be one of our best sellers.
Yeah.
So this is what I say the kids are drinking.
Yeah, I mean, like it's obviously sweet, definitely sweeter than like the first couple that we had.
Yep.
But like, I think maybe the reason why I haven't had a lot of ciders is because they're just like they just taste like sugar bombs. And like this doesn't taste like that. It's like kind of like mellow at the beginning, and then like at the end, it's like you bite into the cider donut. The only thing you're not getting is the donut and like the little granulated sugar on the outside. Like, I'm like waiting for the crunch almost on the sugar, the sugar crystals.
It's still not as heavy as like a
Yeah.
donut flavor
Exactly.
usually is.
Yeah,
You
anything
expect it
donut
to
flavored.
be,
Yeah, even a donut.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. We're trying to give you the experience of what a cider donut in a glass might taste like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the target. That doesn't necessarily mean we hit the target, but
Listen,
that's the idea.
I've never had it before today, so there was like a real time, my like eyes are bulging in my head. And Chrissy, my fiance, loves apple cider donuts, so if it's anywhere here, I'm gonna take some for her. So I'm curious also because I see like all these tanks in the back behind the camera, so you can't see those.
Sure.
There's a lot of things going on back there, and some of those tanks are gigantic. And so that's where all the production happens, is right here on site?
Yes, everything is done on site. The larger tanks that you see in the back are the fermentation tanks. They're also bulk storage tanks. And then what you don't see on the left-hand side are the smaller tanks, the bright tanks, and you'd also see those in breweries and even distilleries.
Yeah.
And those can be pressurized. So that's where we finish off, a base cider and flavor it, carbonate it, and get it ready for packaging, either in a keg or in cans.
What are some of, what's your favorite here? What's your favorite cider that's here at Burnt Mills?
Of the ones we do, I like the peach a lot in the summer.
Okay.
Usually
We're going to have to
in
come back.
August.
Yeah, for that.
Yeah, and a strawberry lemonade as well in the summer.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
When you guys are doing these Monday morning meetings that we talked about and you're trying new flavors, is it what's the feeling like when everyone at the table, maybe there's some a naysayer in the group, but whatever, but everyone at the table is nailed it. This is it. We hit it. This is exactly what we were going for. That must be an awesome feeling to know that you're going to bring something quality out to people, right?
Yeah, we get that. It's, it's funny. Sometimes you have a product that is right on target with what you had in mind, and that doesn't necessarily translate to commercial success. So, again, the flavors that appeal to me personally tend to, because they're on the dry side, they tend to do less well.
Okay.
But I think they're absolutely delicious.
Yeah, you have that artist curse kind of thing, I feel like, It's what you like, but you also want to, sell something, So, but honestly, I mean, all these were phenomenal. And you mentioned the summer, too. Can we talk about the outside? Because right now it's like, recording this episode, it's like 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And it's been,
Snow
this
on
is
the
like the
ground.
warmest day we've had in like 4 days.
That is
But it looks so cool. Like, there's like fire pits back there. I know you guys do food trucks, so there's a bunch of stuff that happens here, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have we have a covered pergola now, and then we have picnic tables there, some picnic tables out in our field. People tend to bring their own like folding chairs, blankets, and just kind of set up shop, get comfy.
Yeah.
And we do have food trucks. Right now, we only have food trucks on Saturdays, weather permitting. If it's like snowing like crazy, they're not going to come. But we usually have one every day that we're open during our busier seasons, like
Yeah.
the spring and the fall in particular.
It must be
Which is great.
awesome out there when there's like people out there and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we're
for-
family friendly.
Yeah.
You'll see people, treating it as almost as a beach.
Yeah.
And they'll camp out for the afternoon, see the tents and the canopies. They're celebrating birthdays or special family events. It's really nice to see that, and they get to enjoy. We look west, so they get to enjoy a nice sunset.
Sunsets are beautiful out there. Yeah.
And just it's meant to be a gathering place with the community and a place where you can relax, and so I think we've achieved that part of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Quick sidebar. Did we hit everything that we needed to hit?
I think so. The only other thing I would mention is that all of our products are naturally gluten-free.
Okay.
Which is another thing that's great about cider being a good alternative to beer.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that, and then we'll do socials and website and everything. You good?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right. This has been great. So I'm going to mark, I don't have my time in front of me, but okay. So I've also noticed that like I mentioned beer, whiskey, like that's kind of like what I drink, but as I'm getting older, like beer doesn't always agree with me as well as it did back when I was like slamming Natty Light in college, like when I was 21, for sure. But cider, gluten-free, right?
Yes, it's all naturally gluten-free.
Yep.
About the same ABV as a beer, but it's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And a little friendlier.
For sure. We love friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this has been great, and I really appreciate you guys having me out and for the little flight here and everything. This was awesome. It was great getting to know you both. So if people are listening to this and they want to know more about Burnt Mills and they want to, know where to go, know where to check out socials, all that kind of stuff, where would you send them to do that?
Yeah, so we have a website, burntmillscider.com. We've got our food truck schedule on there. Our tap list is on there. And we're also on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Awesome.
And we're good about updating, food truck schedules, tap lists, what's available in cans, events going on, things like that. And you can message us that way as well.
Sweet. Well, John, Miranda, thank you so much for doing this with us today and
Thank
having
you.
me in here. We'll put all the links in the show notes. People just go click them, check it out, come out, grab a cider, enjoy. And we're definitely going to come out. We'll bring the dog.
Definitely.
We'll do a whole thing outside over the summer. That's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure.
So thank you again. And just for everybody listening, this has been the Greetings with the RSA podcast powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm Mike Ham. We were out here at Burnt Mills Cider in Bedminster, New Jersey today. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.